Cunisti, how are ye? Welcome to the Candlelittales podcast, and this is our conversation about stories for the dark.
Yes, and welcome to the Candlelittales podcast, a look forward for what podcasts will be telling in the dark of this year. And we're in a beautiful studio booth in Dublin Library in Ballyfermot, and it's a free area to use podcast recording.
Yeah.
And it's really very
It's
lovely
very,
to be here.
very cool. If you're in Dublin and you want to record stuff and you want a soundproof studio, check it out. Libraries are really good.
They're very good.
We're
It's definitely
finding
more
out.
comfortable in the shop, I'll tell you that much.
There's room. It's too warm.
It is a
The
bit
shop
warm.
is, in fairness, is too cold. Even for me.
Yeah.
I have not gone in there for about a month because I'm like, it's just Baltic.
And
as soon as you turn on the heat, it evaporates through the wooden walls, and I'm like, I can't. It's too expensive and it's too cold.
Yeah,
so
can't we do that? So here we are.
We're here instead
in the library,
in a slightly too warm place with a lot of really good lights and a really good camera, though, because they have their own equipment if you know how to use it.
So we
or
hope
you can bring your own equipment.
I hope I set this ISO levels up and all the rest of it because
we don't really know what we're doing. It's
guessing work.
It seems fine.
Before we get into the chats, we had our very first Patreon Zoom call last night, which was lovely.
It
really
was a
lovely.
lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I resist all of these things like crazy, and then sometimes I do them and I'm like, I was right, vindication, I should always never do things. And then other times I'm like, yeah, that was pretty fun. In fairness, I think that was Alan's idea. So like, it was Alan's idea to be like, please pay attention to the patrons.
So thank you, our very ignored Patreon followers.
We also put up a wonderful video of it. I have been hiding self-view on Zoom since I found out that function exists, because otherwise it stopped me from being like, just like only looking at my own picture and ignoring everything else that's happening.
I do too. I have to hide my self-view as well.
Yeah, so
problem is
I had hid self-view and I had recorded the session so that we could post it for people who didn't make it. So we just recorded not ourselves at all. We're just not in it.
And everyone else is muted.
Everyone else is muted. So it's just the audio of us talking and the video of everybody else's reactions, which I really like, actually, because that's what I was looking at during the call. But next time, we're going to not do that and maybe use the post-it trick instead.
Yeah.
Which is what you do if you don't have self-view.
So all of that is to say, if you're not enticed, if you're a Patreon supporter, I hope you enjoyed the chat, and thank you very much again. And if you're not enticed by the fact that we've a really solid video being put up on Patreon, maybe this will entice you to join our Patreon by going to patreon.com/candlelittales, because
throw us a few quid. We don't have tiers on Patreon because we don't believe in that. Whatever amount you can give us for whatever amount of time is something that we really appreciate. It's just a little something you can do extra. We have put up our first chat. We are going to do this again in December.
Monthly basis.
We are going to do it on a monthly basis, regardless of whatever else is going on. The next one, Aaron will join if he can.
Yeah. So
there's a little bit of a question mark about whether Aaron is joining. Would you like to tell everyone why?
I'm running away.
You're running away. You're so late.
Yeah.
I ran away immediately after college.
Yeah. Well,
for 2 full years.
Yeah, you did that. I've always run away for very short term.
Yeah, you're a sprinter.
I'm
actually,
a sprint. I run away, come back, and go. Oh, what am I doing? Yeah, and so this time I'm finally doing. I was doing a yoga teacher training course just before lockdown, and I was in Dublin, and I was really enjoying it and really getting into it. And yoga kept me sane during lockdown for sure, but it also
that's what I stopped doing. Lockdown.
Yeah. Now, finally, after a really bad knee injury, I decided to give myself the self-compassion present of going off to India, to Rishikesh in the north, near the Himalaya mountains, and teaching or learning and studying yoga. So that's going to be lovely.
What's really funny to me?
What?
You flee cold.
Yeah, I know.
You are going to the Himalayas.
I know. It's cold up there.
That's actually genuinely very funny to me. We constantly have this disagreement. I went on holidays to Iceland, and our father continues to think that I am like clinically insane for going on holiday to a place that has ice in the name of it. It was amazing. Everyone should go. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful and pristine and incredible. And I have no regrets. But also, this is just like a very fundamental divide in our family. to be honest, I think like a lot of the big fundamental divides in our family, there's me and then there's all of the rest
There's
of
the
the
rest
family.
of us, yeah.
And then there's her mum who's kind of like,
goes
I'm
along
not
with it.
taking a side.
Yeah. I'll do whatever anyone wants to do with me. It's fine.
I have all of the Hegarty like stubbornness, but I'm like completely opposed on so many things. Like things like whether it's better to be too hot or too cold. I'm like, cold. Cold is 1,000% always better. You can move around and warm up.
Yeah.
If you are too hot, there is nothing you can do. It's just awful.
Disagree.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So that's fair. But that's the funny thing about going to Northern India. I mean, it's going to be not that cold during the day. We'll see.
You know what you're going to, what you're going to be missing, and what is the topic of this? This is a segue, and I'm very proud of it because I just thought of it.
I was thinking it.
Is the darkness.
Yeah.
Because I came across this recently, and I bought the book actually because I Googled it on a whim. Because I was looking at names of months, and the name in Irish for the month of December is Mín na nullag.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, but what, like, is that a pre-Christian name? What is the pre-Christian name? But I kind of got curious about that. So it's not. It's nullag is comes from nativity, comes from the Christmas feast. But apparently, the older name just means the dark month. Duricus, like I can't remember, Duricatus or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. Anyway, there's a great book that is a history of Ireland in 100 words.
Wow.
That is the wrong name, I'm pretty sure, but I will put it in the show notes.
Definitely.
That I bought out of curiosity, and it's really interesting. It's got stuff like, they talk about apples. The apples in Irish mythology are so fucking big because it's the only fruit that grew here.
Yeah.
It was the only thing that was sweet.
Literally.
And could grow, because our country is a weird place.
It is.
Kind of ran out of steam there. It's
so,
apples and honey. Honey apples.
What we were going to do while I was going away and avoiding the dark cold was take a break. And Sorcha's been saying loads of podcasts do this all the time. We can just take a break.
I keep mentioning it.
You keep mentioning it, and we keep going.
We keep finding a reason not to do it. And in fairness, we have also realized a very fundamental thing that I think a lot of other podcasts maybe figured out a little bit sooner, which is that the way we record is dumb and bad, and we shouldn't do it. Because the way we record is that me and Aron, the people who can't do things on deadline or at all without outside intervention, just are kind of expected and encouraged to just tell stories and then deliver them with enough time for Alan and Oisín to edit them and put music on them.
It's the with enough time thing is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. We're terrible.
The advanced thing.
We just don't do them. So what we decided to do was actually book studio time.
Yeah. Which
we did last month.
Yeah.
Which was actually, was that earlier this month? That was earlier.
Earlier.
So we did it at the start of this month. We did it at the end of this month. So we're basically from now on going to be doing like 2 studio sessions per month where we get all of our podcasts recorded for the next period of time. So that's why we're here today.
That's an update.
So our process is getting a little bit smoother. And also, we decided not to do a hiatus.
We decided not to do a hiatus because honestly, when we were doing a number of live shows recently, we just kept on meeting people who like said really nice things to us and really liked the stories, and were helped through, sometimes. And
we're such suckers for if anybody says anything nice to us ever. So, we're like, oh, okay.
And
just keep doing it forever.
Just keep on going then.
We're fine.
And I guess the dark time of year is also the time when you have a lot of time, maybe more idle. It's the time we always wound down on doing a lot of live shows because it was too busy with Christmas parties and stuff going on, and nativity plays and pantos, and it's just it's a lot.
And it's a lot. It's the time of year where like it's a little bit difficult. We've always kind of been able to book shows or book spaces for shows anytime except December, because December is just like
everyone's
manic.
Booking everything. Yeah,
everything is booked out. Everything's booked out a month in advance. We don't have that kind of forward planning capacity, as previously mentioned.
Like fun thinking.
Yes.
Saying.
How long we've been doing this for 8 years? When are we going to grow an ability to plan forward?
I
Aaron?
think we started doing it 8 years ago and took 6 years of, figuring out what not to do.
Yeah, actually, you are correct, because just as we had started to figure it out was the year 2020.
Yeah.
That was when we were like, oh, we're kind of getting our head over. We
Yeah.
kind of got the hang of it.
Got
We're kind of got it. We got a little bit of a kaboom.
Yeah.
No, that's true. That's true. This year has been a weird sprinty recovery
and
year.
I guess one of the other reasons we want to keep on telling stories and put a few more stories out is because this is still a really strange year. And I've been talking to a lot of friends, a lot of people who've been like really struggling. There's been breakups, there's been life decisions, there's been worries, there's been anxiety through fucking money and where we're going. There's a war that's crazy. Everyone's still kind of manic after the lockdown and how to integrate. And everyone's just like, oh, it's normal again. Let's go back to being normal. It's fine. Like, well, actually, people have some post-traumatic trauma going on. Like, it's not just as easy. So there is a lot going on for people. And, compassion, that's welcome. That's okay. You're not crazy for just feeling crazy in a crazy world. It's actually a pretty, natural and...
It's a pretty sane response.
So, I guess, hold in there. You're doing great. We're going to try and get a few more stories.
And there's something about, like, this is the month when it's dark. Listen, in Ireland, we're extremely far north. We're farther north than we even kind of realize that we are, because the weather is so temperate.
Yeah.
But we are very far north.
Yeah, we are.
Like, it is... my sleep is all over the place at the moment. I was telling Aron about this morning, because I'm currently having just fun times with insomnia, because I was sick for a bit. And whenever I'm sick, I go full nocturnal, and I really can't go full nocturnal in winter. It's okay in summer because it's bright until 11 p.m. Like, it's fine. It's going to be bright again at like 4. It's fine. But in winter, I have like the sense memory in wintertime of driving into school with the rising sun blinding me, and driving home from school with the setting sun blinding me. This means going in at 8:30 in the morning and coming home at 4:30 in the fucking afternoon. And that's your hours of daylight. And so, as a school child in the winter, you would just miss all of it.
And as a grown-ass woman who sleeps all day.
As a grown-ass woman, if I am not extremely careful, I can also sleep through the daylight hours.
yeah, which is dangerous.
Extremely easily. And then I am... some kind of flesh-eating ghoul. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's like you still manage to do so much in your nocturnal process. In fairness to you, like you can actually,
well, this is the thing. It's because my brain at 11 p.m. goes, "Hello, what are we doing?"
Yeah. Oh,
this is the thing that, like, for the last 2 years of me having to get up in the morning and go to an office job, screwed my productivity so badly.
It did. You were useless.
Just like, it screwed my productivity, and it screwed my sleep, and it screwed my brain function to like try and bludgeon myself into getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
Because at 11 p.m. my brain goes, "Hey, what are we doing?"
So what are we doing? What are we doing right now?
Well, what we're doing is we're talking about the fact that this next series is
not really a series.
We don't want to tie ourselves down to doing a series.
Yeah.
What we want to do is we want to tell some stories that you can listen to in the dark.
Yeah.
Tell some stories. They might be a little thematically dark because it's Irish mythology, and that's very easy.
Yep.
But we're also not tying ourselves to that. Aaron might have a fit of optimism. You wouldn't know.
Not the story I've lined up to tell.
Your next story is pretty grim. We also have a couple of stories that we have done. We've a couple of like interviews that we have done.
That's going to come up pretty soon as well. Allison from Lore and Legends, which is lovely.
Not from Lore and Legends, because that's Rick, who we're doing a podcast for. We are also using our studio space to finally get our stories over to Rick in Lore and Legends, whose upcoming series is going to be very, very cool. And we're not going to say any more about it right now.
Yes, I'm going to have to find Daniel Allison's actual...
For the love of God, find Daniel Allison's actual podcast, because he's a very nice guy, and you had an interview with him, which was lovely. And he does a podcast on Scottish legends.
He does.
And it's
very good. He told a story with us in MVP. And
he told a story with us in MVP at our live show, which was lovely.
House of Legends podcast. Thank
I
you.
can see why you keep getting mixed up because
Yeah,
house,
it's confusing.
lore.
And he has a couple of books. He gave me 2 books actually. And they're really lovely. He's one of If You're on the Fianna, which I really enjoyed. Again, he puts his own spin on them.
Good.
Some details that are like interesting, new angles. Some stories I had come across, loads of them, but some stories I was like, oh, this is slightly new to me. So that's always lovely. And then he's a whole book on Scottish myths and legends, which I
Amazing.
did not know many of at all, which are great. I still haven't finished that though.
Awesome.
And so,
well,
yeah.
we will put linkages to things in the show notes.
Absolutely. And yeah, so we're having a little collaboration with him. I'll be a chat with him that I really enjoyed, and that'll be coming out soon. And I guess what we're talking about now is the stories that why we keep stories close to us in the dark times. Why, like, we get comfort from listening to a story about darkness when it's dark outside. Why, whenever we ask people, oftentimes, do you want a sad story or a love story or which is always the same, or a battle story, or it's a sad story. People want to hear sad stories.
Well, I think Irish people love sad stories. I don't know that this is universal.
Yeah.
I don't know because I
Again,
spent
I
a good bit of time in my life doing like different kind of cultural interviews and research with people, and I don't know that the sad story thing is universal.
It's definitely Irish though.
It's definitely very
and we're
Irish.
an Irish storytelling podcast, so
I'd be very curious to hear from people I mean, probably if you're listening to our podcast, you are one of the people who like sad stories, but like, generally speaking, do you like sad stories or happy stories or, happy ending or sad ending? Like, what's the vibe? Because
sometimes you can feel bleak after hearing a really sad story, and like if you don't have the capacity to kind of like let it, wash over you and go or awaken an emotion, it could just be too heavy and too because you're already feeling a bit blah. And then there's another flip side where like if you're feeling a little bit numb or not really kind of connected, and you hear a sad story, it awakens something in you that's feeling, and you connect to it more.
This is the thing that I think is why people are attracted to sad stories, and it actually reminds me of a conversation I used to have a lot when I was a teenager, where I listened to a lot of Radiohead in the 90s.
Oh yeah,
because I didn't want to hear any fucking happy boppy songs.
No,
because it was like that to me. Okay, there was 2 parts of that. One is that boy bands are about, teenage girls' burgeoning sexualities, which it turned out I didn't have any of. But also the fact that they were...
Too much information.
Hey, if people are out here assuming I'm straight, that's kind of on them.
Yeah, fair.
It's fine. But to me, the other part of that was that, like, if I'm feeling unhappy and alienated, and I hear somebody talking about how happy they are, that is more alienating. And one of the things about those emotions like sadness and like deep sorrow is that it is kind of inherently alienating. Mm-hmm. It makes you feel alone.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel disconnected.
Yeah.
So when you hear a story about somebody else who is feeling sad and disconnected, it kind of makes you realize that that's just a very human feeling.
Absolutely.
And
in doing so connects you to your own humanity. And one of the things that when we're going through patches, and I just gonna say we, because look, we're all cyclical, we're going through it. It's just in the certainly the year of this, and I'm sure the life of many others, that you go through those cycles, and it's to know that like the cycle will have an up and will also have a down, and when you're in those down moments, to connect back into a feeling can actually be a challenge, like because it can just be very muddy and numb, and that's when you're like,
well, when you kind of try and disconnect, like when you're in that prolonged period of sadness, and it becomes unbearable, and you kind of disconnect from emotion generally, and then you forget what feeling good feels like. Because the only way to reconnect with feeling good is to reconnect with feeling bad. And you've been feeling bad for so long that it feels better to just not feel anything. And then you can stay in that for a real long time.
A long time.
And long enough that it's like, it stops feeling like a cycle. And you're like, well, if this is a cycle, the wheel is fucking stuck. It's not turning. But that's kind of the point of it. Is actually, yeah, absolutely. Every day feels like 100 days or 100 years, which is, time is a weird illusion anyway.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it personally. Don't hold with it. No. But
I mean, the idea that, we're connecting to our humanity through stories and finding comfort in sadness and in sorrow and like the great levels of despair that are painted in the stories. I think like the epicness of the loss, the epicness of the tragedy, the sheer and utter traumatizing descriptions and awful barbaric things that can happen to people kind of thing, like you get to maybe step into that for a moment and then reflect, oh, well, at least that's not going on for me,
Yeah, but it's also
maybe
I don't necessarily think it's about comparing your own pain to somebody else's pain, because I actually think that is another one of those traps that can be quite alienating.
Yeah.
Because the feeling doesn't have a degree.
No.
If you break your toe or you break your leg, that's not, that pain doesn't, like, it's still, like, if you've broken your toe, it's the most painful thing that's ever happened to you. If you break your leg a year later, that's the most painful thing that's ever happened to you. It's still at the time
relative,
just pain. I know I lost track of this analogy at one moment. I remember having this this really interesting connection with it with a baby at one point. Baby was having a little freak out. And I was looking at the baby and I suddenly went, "Oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to you."
Yeah.
Your mum left you alone for 2 seconds.
Literally.
This is the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
And
like, cause it is.
Yeah.
And there's something about, if you look at the baby and go, yeah, well, this is fucking nothing, sunshine, that's not going to help the baby. You got to just pick up the baby right now and empathize with where they're at right now.
And actually, you reminded me of something I was reading about existential crises. An existential crisis is tapping into the feeling of being a child in that position, of being completely and utterly existentially sorrowful, lost and hopeless and unable and like completely incapable of taking control and surviving, which is basically what infants are. And so
they're useless.
They're just useless. They're really shy at surviving unless, you have a grown person there to...
they're crap. They can't even talk.
But so you're tapping into that's what, like, and you get that brain fog and the freak out and you're just like, you're
emotionally
up.
You're back there.
And you go emotionally back into that like panic child feeling of, I can't do anything. What's going on? But hey, the world is chaos. And so you've got to allow it be chaos around you and try and stay in the center, which is not as easy as it sounds, but it's also...
It doesn't sound easy, Aaron.
Sorry. Yeah.
There's a really important difference between something that is simple and something that is easy.
Sorry, yeah. It sounds simplistic when I say it.
It sounds simple, but simple and easy are not the same thing. And actually a lot
Words
of
mean things.
A lot of stuff that is very, very helpful like that is very, very simple and very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So staying centered, staying inside the circle is fucking hard work.
Can be. Absolutely.
So this series, we are gonna tell stories as we come across them and as we feel like sharing them in the dark.
Yeah.
So these are stories that we are telling in the dark for you to listen in the dark. I also just want to, as a final note, remind everybody in the Northern Hemisphere that you are supposed to be tired in winter.
Yeah.
Do not let artificial light and artificial schedules fool you into thinking that your tiredness is like a reflection of you not being good enough.
Yeah.
This is the time of year that you're supposed to fucking go to sleep.
You're supposed to fucking hibernate.
Right? You're supposed to sleep. You're supposed to hibernate. You're supposed to go to sleep for a long time. You're supposed to be less active. You're supposed to be conserving energy and heat and everything. So like, just fucking burrow in, get a little bit fat, eat a lot of chocolate, and wait for spring. That is what you were designed to do. This is all good stuff, and it's fine. Or run away. To India.
You know, if you're, hey, look, there's different floats for different folks, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna stay here, getting fat. That's my plan. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna get real fat, and I will see you in spring.
I'm gonna go and eat lots of vegetarian food and probably.
Yeah, you're gonna get alarmingly skinny.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried actually. I'm like, oh.
And try not to get food poisoning in India.
I mean, I'm definitely gonna get food poisoning.
You're definitely gonna get food poisoning, man.
I'm definitely gonna get food poisoning.
You have no fat on you.
No,
you gotta bring some, like.
I have some fat. Somewhere.
You really don't. Anyway, listen. Aaron is going to go.
Okay, listen. Thanks so much for listening.
Try not to starve on a mountain.
I'm going to try and not starve on a mountain. Sorcha's going to get fat.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
That's the intention.
And I look forward to seeing you, probably more healthy than me.
I will see you next year. And
we'll be tuning back in with some more stories. Thank you very much for going to patreon.com/candlelittales if you have done so already. And we'll be back with more stories very soon. Thank you very much. And subscribe, like the channel. Did you do it already? Hit like, leave us a review.
Tell us your opinions, share, comments.
Comment.
Are you? Do you want to be too hot or too cold?
Yeah, all of those things really help us.
Our boy band's bullshit.
Yeah, answer. Respond. So the algorithm helps. And we're trying to get better at putting stuff out there for the world.
Thank you very much.
Subscribe. Bye.